Show unique list of filtered columns. So I did this a few years ago, and then I was just going through some old YouTube videos, and here I saw this one from maybe a year and a half ago from Mr. Excel. Read selected auto filter values. So you go through this video, and it was basically the same thing that I saw, I don't know, 3, 4 years ago, where you have an auto filter on and you actually want to extract the values that are stuck in the filter. So here in this video, Mr. Excel shows you how to do it with macros, programming it, which is quite interesting. Now, it kind of ties together because here I saw a post a couple of weeks ago from this really nice website called My Online Training Hub, and Minda connects a slicer to an Excel table, so basically you can see what you're filtering. They actually work back and forth. So here at the top she has two slicers. You make a change up here, it filters the data, or you make a change in the filter and it affects the slicers. But that only exists if you have the Excel 2013 version, or even the new one that's coming out eventually. So if you have an older version, that won't work. So back in Excel here, so here we look at the challenge. We have a filtered list, and you can, of course, you can look in here and see what you've filtered it to. But if this list is long, it can get kind of frustrating. If you just wanted to display how this is filtered, well, of course, this is 2013 I have. So I see the slicer here, and I've got my filtered list. They work back and forth. But if you didn't have Excel 2013, you'd have to use formulas. So let's take a look here. If I go in here and I deselect everything and I select only rainy, I press the OK button, the slicer will update, and this is my solution over here, using, of course, all of these helpers. It's kind of a painful solution, but it does work. So now I'm going to use the slicer, and that will affect sort of the reverse of what I just did. I'm going to say rainy and windy and overcast. Three different things. You hold down the control key, you pick them, and now we see that my solution also shows you those options. And in here, what we picked in the slicer is now reflected down in here. Now you could do this to multiple columns and have multiple slicers, but now let's go and let's look at the steps that I took to solve this. So step number one, what did I do here? Add subtotal helper. Okay, so current row visible equals 1. Right, so this formula, what we see right here, the subtotal, the 103 I believe is counting, and it's got a single cell as a range. So basically, if the row is visible, we get a 1. So watch what's going to happen. Really quickly, you'll see zeros and they'll all turn to 1. If I turn off the filter, I'm going to clear it. So data, clear, and it sort of flashes 0 and then all 1s. So what we're seeing is all the rows are visible. So that's step one, where we use this little trick. And of course, if you had a big data set, this is kind of annoying, having this helper all the way down. Now, the next part might seem a bit strange, because some people love to use the row function. But what I like to do, I've done thousands of calls over the years with people, and if you use a counter and you just put this manual counter in here, it's lighter, and then if you insert rows or columns here at the top, it's not going to affect the solution. So we have this little counter, and it goes all the way down. So why do we need this counter? Well, the next part here is our match. So now we're on this step. So let's look at this step. What we're doing here is kind of interesting because it's a very light way to determine, is this the first time that I see the word sunny? So here we see the word snowing 3 times. Only the first one gets a true. Here we see windy here and windy there. Only the first one gets a true. This is important because we have to get a unique list of, we don't want to see the same thing over and over again. We want to get that unique list up there. So that's what this part does, the match function in here. And it does that. Let's go inside of here. So we see the match function. What it's actually doing is looking for the word windy in this column of weather conditions. So if I highlight this match function like this and press the F9 key, we get a 5. So equals 5 equals the counter. Well, I can see that the counter is 5. So when I highlight this and press the F9 key, equals 5 is true. So, but if we go down to the next one, which is this one right here, and I go over here into the match, I highlight the match, I press the F9 key, now we get a 5, but 5 is not going to equal 8. So equals 5 equals, highlight this, press F9, equals 5 equals 8 equals false. So this is important because now we are going to get into the next step, which is use an array formula to extract these numbers. Okay, so a little helper here, but here's what the array does. Let's look at our windy example. Okay. Oh, first of all, though, we need to filter this to something. So we could do it either way. We could do it in here, or we could do it in our slicer. So because I have 2013. Let's pick rainy, and I'm going to hold down, well, actually just clear all of that. I'm going to select rainy and then hold down the control key and select windy. So now we have two things. If we scroll down here, we're only going to see two things. So we see true for the first windy and true for the first rainy. So let's go back to what this array is now doing. The array is saying if subtotal equals 1, that means it's a visible row, but also that this is our first condition right there. Second condition is right here, that our match has to be equal to true. So in this case, I've only selected two things. I expect to see only two rows that have a true over here. Because really, my solution, if we take away this slicer, my solution should still work and show you only what we see inside of this filter, right? Because in previous versions, we couldn't connect the slicer to our Excel table. Anyways, we go back to the array. We know what the two conditions are doing. And now we get into if both conditions are met, meaning that this condition is true and this condition is true for the same row, we are going to take out the row numbers, okay? And basically we're using the small function to say, well, I've got a bunch of row numbers, in this case only two, but there could be multiple row numbers stuck inside of the array formula. So we're saying small, right in here we're saying, of these values, give me the smallest one, or second smallest, because we're right here. Here I'm saying give me the smallest, and then second smallest. That's why we have this counter. And then it just shows the row numbers. Let's check that out. So here we have our true value, that's row 21. And then we have the next true is row 25 right there. So the first occurrence of windy, and then the first occurrence of rainy, row 21, row 25. There it is. And last but not least, we have the index. So this is just saying if it's blank, give me blank, else use the index to go find the actual values that we want. And then finally over here, I'm just concatenating or putting all of these text values together.